coming up on this episode of the Roundtable.
Maybe show them New York City and people getting mugged and shot during the day.
Show them the boarded up restaurants.
On our way out, we're going to fly to LaGuardia, so we'll probably spend a night there, and I'll show them New York City for probably the last time they'll see it in person before we put the walls around it.
Matt's going to tour Alphabet City with a cigar hanging out of his mouth. This is your education, kids. This is how you learn.
John Yoo and Michael Anton were appointed by Trump to the National Sciences.
Education and
Sciences Board.
Oh my God.
And John Yoo said, what are we supposed to do on this thing? And I just sent him a picture of a matchbook. Welcome, everyone, once again to the Roundtable, the American minds here at the Claremont Institute's Publishers and Editors podcast weekly. It's a very, very, very Merry Christmas special podcast. Spencer made us all drink rosé for the occasion.
I'm going to kill you all. The rosé chose us, I think, is the way to say it. No, I sat here alone awaiting the interruption of bourbon as usual.
Spencer wanted bourbon, but we decided.
We're recording on the 18th, and this will air next week, which will be a short week for everybody with Christmas. So we just wanted to say, in a good, unpolitically correct fashion, Merry Christmas. Mm-hmm. And Jesus is King. All right, now we're done. Thank you all for joining us. We thought we'd keep it light this podcast. It's been a crazy year. But I just talked about Jesus. We don't despair here at the Claremont Institute. For one thing, it's a sin. And for another, there's a lot to be thankful for. Even though it's not Thanksgiving, it's Christmas. Mm-hmm. First of all, okay, what does everyone want for Christmas? Bar, you go first.
Oh man, I want stuff. I asked recently my father for help with stuff that needs fixing in the house, which is that's definitely dad phase. So we need some windows replaced. And good heavens, I don't know if any of you guys know how much windows are.
Yeah, good ones are not cheap.
It's thousands of dollars. So that's the kind of stuff I'm asking.
Yeah. That's good.
But what do you really want?
Yeah, what do you wish somebody would get you?
A Tesla flamethrower.
There's the sensible
a little
gift.
salvation, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
What do I want? Yeah, actually, we're in a similar boat, David. Not to fix stuff, but just big items. So we're selflessly asking for the grandparents for some contributions to the baby's the baby's outdoor swing set fund. Those things are not cheap either, especially if you get cool, elaborate white privilege ones, with a climber thing on it and everything. What about you, Matt?
I don't know. My dadness is very much kicked in where I want to get through being on the East Coast with my entire family.
Yeah.
In a sane, safe way. Kids are going to love to see snow. They're already complaining, why do we live in California?
Yeah.
The rest of the world, kids don't care. Would really like to live. There's snow there, Dad. Why can't we live there? But we will see lots of snow in the wilds.
You going to upstate New York?
Yeah, Pennsylvania and New York, both.
Yeah.
I guess my relatives are straddle the border.
Right.
In the middle of nowhere, and it'll be great. So I just want to get through that with good times had by all. And maybe show them New York City and people getting mugged and shot during the day.
Show them the boarded up restaurants.
On our way out, we're going to fly to LaGuardia, so we'll probably spend a night there, and I'll show them New York City for probably the last time they'll see it in person before we put the walls around it.
Yeah.
Matt's going to tour Alphabet City with a cigar hanging out of his mouth. This is your education, kids. This is how you learn.
We got engaged. My wife and I got engaged one fine New Year's Eve in Central Park. So
there you go.
I will. We'll show them that, and then we'll have done that. And
Oh, nice. Do you remember the spot exactly, Matt?
I think so. Yeah, but we'll have to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
I don't know why I thought of it. I thought of a burning down New York, and it made me think of it. But John Yoo and Michael Anton were appointed by Trump to the National Sciences,
Education and
Sciences Board.
Oh my God!
And John Yoo said, "What are we supposed to do on this thing?" And I just sent him a picture of a matchbook. It's an old Reagan joke about the Department of Education. Yeah,
Burn it down.
But actually one substantive thing is our good friend, mentor for many of us, vice chairman Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale College, is the chair of the 1776 Commission.
Oh, yeah.
Our colleague Charles Kessler is also on it. That should be good. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting list, including Charlie Kirk and James Lindsay.
Yeah,
so
it's quite the motley crew. Are they going to persist? Nevertheless, they persisted in the unlikely event of a Biden presidency. Are they?
I have it on good authority that the plans are afoot to do something with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
But yeah, I don't. I think they can stay into. I mean, Biden's going to fire the 1776 Commission.
Right.
I don't know. I expect they're going to do a bunch of work before inauguration, and then maybe get out of town.
Cool.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Valid.
a little silver lining Christmas cheer.
I like that.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite Trump moves, actually. It was that whole commission, the conference that he held. It's for the folks that don't know, it's a direct response to 1619, which is now being installed in curricula across the country. And I don't know, it couldn't possibly be more important. I've been seeing on Twitter recently, I went on Jeremy Tate's podcast. He runs the CLT, the Classical Learning Test, which is kind of an alternative to the SAT. And I don't know, maybe it's just because now I'm in that internet space or something. I'm just seeing a lot of Daniel Buck and these teachers come out and basically just say I'm a conservative. Mostly guys come out and say I'm a conservative and I'm in the teaching space and it's hugely hostile, but I'm here and I'm gonna fight in any way that I can to not give our kids brainworms. And that's, I think, actually probably that's the movement I'm most excited about being a part of, supporting, watching long term, next to opening up things in coronavirus.
Yeah, and we should all remember it's not too early to start prepping. 2026 will be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration. Our friend Lucas Morel is on that commission, which is what to do around that. Separate from the 1776 Commission.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Will America still be a country?
In 2026?
Either way, it'll be important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer, what do you want for Christmas?
Oh boy, I wish I had something virtuous or practical or interesting to say that I want. I'm actually really hard to shop for these days. I have everything that I could possibly ask for. But I am building a home gym, and so I've just told everybody that anything that they can get to contribute to that. I currently have the Olympic bar and the weights and the basics, but I need a good bench and a rack.
I meant to ask you about that, Spencer. What floor are you on in your complex?
I am on the 12th floor, David, in my apartment complex.
When you deadlift, I mean, how are you dealing with
slamming it down? It's a good practice for my form. Actually, I just have to be very
you have to lower it,
in control of my downward motion, which is good because you're not supposed to, but it is good to hold at the top of the motion and to be controlled in your return.
Yeah.
So there you are. But yes, what I really worry about is waking up Josh because it happens at 5 a.m. and he's sound asleep. And
he's the night owl in your relationship, right?
Exactly. We have a
different
inverse sleeping schedules.
Yeah.
And yes, the home gym has been a great joy. I like just the security, the anti-lockdown security, even though I'm continuing to patronize the Latinx gym that I go to and. We'll probably never, as long as I'm in driving distance of that place, I'll probably never ever go anywhere else. I'm just so proud of them. They've been trucking along in the midst of all of this. And it has become, Matt and I just had a conversation about that impossible to identify difference between coping mechanisms and healthy things that you do because of course all of us are complex beings and our rage responses to the pandemic are kind of intertwined with the projects that we undertake for good reasons. And I definitely think that those who follow me on Twitter know that I've become a bit of a lifting fanatic, and it is surely on some level a coping mechanism. It's definitely something that
But
I mean, better one than
literally
drinking.
a healthy one.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I'm from a, since it's Christmas, from a somewhat model and theological perspective, I've always sort of found it touching that, we can and should create these beautiful theories about the right, good, and noble way to live that we can choose purely on the basis of their kind of Nicomachean excellence, just the fact that they're good. We choose them because they're good. But at the end of the day, also, we are these crumbling edifices propped up by various scaffolding pieces of dysfunction and trauma and all this stuff that...
After the end of this year, I'm feeling the crumbling. Feeling the crumbling myself. So.
Yeah, exactly. We all are. And I don't know. It's only a heightening, as Lewis says about the war, it's only a heightening of the normal human condition, which is that you take this broken, weird heap of a mess that you are and you try to shape it into something that actually looks like an upright human being.
I should say the two things, if I was going to go physical things that I want, but it's not in the car, I'm not going to get it this Christmas, but I would have for spring is one, all needed weights for the house, the garage.
Yeah.
And then, and two, something I've held off on for a while with the kids, but I want just two.
A Ducati.
Yeah. Ryan knows I have lots of things that I could talk about, but I think practically not a Ducati, not midlife crisis. Get the weights, but then I want high end 2 speakers. Really, I probably just need 2 really nice.
You have vinyl?
Standing.
Do you have the vinyl already?
No, I do not have the vinyl already. David Bowie style, I could totally get into that. Actually, what tempts me about that is I know with the kids they need. Apple Music, I think, is bad for the soul. They need like a bunch of, discrete blocks of music that they can just play on something that really sounds good. Yeah. So I'm tempted to do that as well. They're all about it. But the main thing is the main cost will be I want some really nice ones.
Can I recommend to you the Peachy Keenan emailed me about how her son wants to weightlift, and so I emailed her. She didn't know what she's getting herself into because I emailed her this like endless thing. I will recommend to you the Bowflex dumbbells, which if you don't already have them, they have this knob on the side, so it's just one dumbbell, but it goes up to 50 pounds and down to 10 pounds just on the one. Anyway, sorry, that's for our listeners perhaps also that's a recommendation. That's pretty good for the weights for your garage. It won't take us much space.
Yeah, donations to all of us are appreciated.
Yeah, exactly. We'll all take Venmo, PayPal, cash.
Did you just say what you wanted, right?
Well, the baby swing set fun.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And also, I've talked about this with Matt.
Dad.
We're gonna finally buy a proper couch, and you get one that lasts a long time, they cost a fortune. So,
yes, that's another thing nobody teaches you until you have kids, and then weird calculations come into play. Like, I really want this type of couch, but you start thinking of the things the kids will do on it.
Yeah,
like the juice that will be spilled, just like
I have a question actually based on something you were saying, Matt, which is I was just listening to an interview with one of the Roach sisters. You guys ever listened to the Roaches? Okay, so this is one of the. My dad has a massive Christmas playlist that we go through, and this is one of the.
Are they related to Papa Roach? We were joking before this podcast about all the '90s music that we know that Spencer has never listened to.
I've never. No, I'm really bad on.
Is that
this,
let the bodies hit the floor?
The bodies hit the floor. Yes. No, the Roach sisters are a tight. They're one of these. I guess 60s, 70s. I'm not actually sure when they're really popular, but the trio of women, tight harmonies, and they have a Christmas album in which they do, for example, they do like a Hallelujah chorus with just 3 female voices. Very cool. And somebody said, this is the album that when it comes on, it's really Christmas. It's really Christmas season when the Roach Christmas album. For me, that's the Nat King Cole. Chestnuts Roasting by an Open Fire. Once that's on, it's Christmas. So what is the album that is Christmas, that creates Christmas in your household?
Well, I'm a huge fan of the Louis Armstrong Christmas.
Good. Okay.
The Oscar Peterson, an underappreciated Christmas as well, if we're going down the
really?
jazz.
Oscar Peterson had Christmas?
That sounds awesome. Kind of funky. It's good.
I want to write that down right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to that tonight.
You guys have to listen to is the the Bob Dylan Christmas album.
So I have a funny. When you said what is it, Christmas? I have to say that album everyone made fun of, and I'm a huge Dylan fan, or have been for my whole life, and that came out, and people were making fun of Dylan and whatever. But Must Be Santa, that track and that video from that,
Yes.
my kids love that. They want that year round.
Wow.
So that
Everybody's
song,
going nuts.
that song in my family with my kids, not because I pushed it on them at all. They love that version of Must Be Santa, and they demand it, from me.
When I'm at my mother's house, the Michael Bublé Christmas is often put on.
Yes,
It's
this is a good
it's a
one.
classic in her repertoire.
Bublé.
I can only take it like one time through.
Yeah.
It's a bit,
That's the
I'll
problem.
take some Bing Crosby over that.
That's right. Yeah. The problem is you
we
need
do
a high
all the
replay
classics.
value. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, you need a high replay value on a Christmas album. You can't just because Bublé is great, but
Does Barr listen to Dylan? What do you have a Christmas album?
Yeah, no, it's the Dylan Christmas album.
wow.
So
in
so what
one
happened is
podcast.
that came out years ago, and we would put it on to upset my mom, who's a foreigner, and so Dylan didn't translate to her ear, right? Like the Beatles would translate, etc.
Now, we must admit that there's some non-foreigners for whom the same applies, but
Yeah. Those broken Americans, but. So we would put it on, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, check this out," and she it would piss her off, and so we started to love it, and then it just became a thing that we all kind of just embraced. Because if you do listen to the
Surprisingly
album, it sounds like he's just putting everybody on, because his voice is particularly shot through, but especially on that album, and so he's like these old Christmas classics, and it's just bizarre, but I like.
Was there ever any like death metal Christmas? Like, is there a Cannibal Corpse Christmas or a Slayer Christmas?
I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there
Must
is.
be,
Yeah.
There's the Eagles Christmas that's pretty good, I think. The band.
The kids also like the what's the a cappella group?
Yeah,
that's
I was
become
just about
big.
to talk Pentatonics.
Yeah, Pentatonics.
This is actually it's a little gay. It's a little embarrassing.
Wait, did you have Spencer? Did you have beef with those guys when you were that Yale songbird? What was the name of your?
Whatever that stupid. Yeah. No, because first
Yale songbird.
The Yale songbirds. So I'm just gonna talk like this the rest of the podcast. Apparently, they were later than us because I was 2013, the Whiff and Poofs it's called, and I can't remember when Pentatonics really got big. I guess they were kind of becoming a thing. They're unfortunately they're really good. I say unfortunately because they have inaugurated the tradition in choral music, which I deplore, of every singer mugging toward the camera as if he or she is singing a solo. So the the truly great a cappella recordings, if you're interested in finding them for Christmas, are Chanticleer and the Kingsingers. Those are the two, the all male.
Oh, yeah.
One American, one British.
Yeah.
And they have stupendous. Here's a good rec: is the Franz Biebel Ave Maria as sung by Chanticleer is a transcendent work of art. Pentatonics is not that. It's like super poppy.
Right.
But they actually, each of their Christmas albums is really good. They have some interesting arrangements, and they always include an original Christmas song, which I really appreciate because they write a new one, and some of them are good.
I feel like they're like a good bridge or starter to Chanticleer or some of the other, time-honored outfits that really do the traditional stuff.
Who do not mug for the camera.
We listen, and we listened. We put a lot of that on. Like my wife the other day, it cracked me up because usually she'll be like, "What the hell is this? Like, put on some damn Christmas music that we all recognize."
Right.
And she reverted, and so I was putting on the classic, Bing Crosby type stuff, and she's like, "No, I mean real Christmas music." And so we, she meant, actual old school religious beautiful music, and there's a ton of it out there. Chanticleer is a great thing for people to explore, just all their repertoire, right?
Magnificent. Yeah, they're a treasure. I mean, there's, if you go back into the annals, of course, the Tallis, there's wonderful Morton Lauridsen, Omega Mysterium is another. You could get serious about Christmas music.
Morton Lauridsen is a modern composer.
Oh yeah,
L.A. guy whose work is incredible
and has a great.
But Spencer, isn't there a dark underbelly to these groups where they maintain
like, you get their flag.
We were briefly taking flight into some transcendent realm.
No, but I'm serious. I thought there was an issue while you were at Yale that the choir, they were some of them were getting surgical procedures to allow their voices to remain pure and airy for many years longer.
Bar, what the hell?
You mean
Talking
like
about that old practice where
castrati?
yeah, exactly.
All right,
I thought that it was becoming popular again.
no,
and I just
David,
wanted to
David,
voice
they were
I'm
trans.
condemning
They were
it.
transitioning. It had nothing to do.
It was their identity.
That's who they were. They had to cut it off. It had
you're
nothing to do with their
dead-naming
singing
them.
ability.
You're dead naming them by identifying the fact that they ever had testicles.
Going off the rails.
This is really shut this podcast down. No, David, I'm gonna jujitsu this curveball.
We were talking. We were
in the
giving
metaphors.
recommendations
We were about
for
to talk
beautiful
about-
music, and now,
And
we're talking about
castrati.
cutting off the male genitals. For the sake of why?
For why?
You're-
Wherefore? I will say that there is one existent recording of the last living castrato, because this obviously was a practice to castrate young boys and hire them as what would now be sopranos. And it was considered a pure sound. I've always felt now when you have men and boys choirs in England, for example, that's what that is. It's the boys singing alto soprano and the men singing tenor bass. I have always felt that actually women's voices are better in that role and not on any woke scale. Just there's an incredibly rich sound to the women's upper register. That having been said, if you just Google last living castrato, castrato, then you will find a truly haunting and bizarre sort of piece of audio history that's just strange and otherworldly and admittedly quite pure in tone. But no, David, nobody cut his.
Admittedly, it
balls
sounds
up.
pretty good.
It sounds good, but it's a big cut. It's a big price to pay for that upper register.
Thank you.
No, where did you hear that, Dave?
That it was happening at Yale?
Yeah.
I was just joking, man.
Oh my god. Oh no.
It was good. It was well delivered.
It was great. Where does one go from?
It was
that?
totally deadpan.
I was like really riveted to know where that was coming from. We did do Christmas caroling in the Yale a cappella scene. We would go to old folks' homes and stuff, sing Christmas carols. Which, and therefore to this day, I know all the bass parts to all these bits, and can say that the Lords and O Magnum Mysterium has a rockin' drone in the bass where you just chill on a low D flat. And
I actually think that's awesome. You were doing that for the elderly.
yeah,
Like,
it was
just
a
people
charity
singing
thing.
in the street. That's a nice time during Christmas. And maybe I didn't grow up in a city. I don't know if this is something that happens in New York, but I sure as hell wish it happened in the suburbs.
Well, if you sing outside in COVID time, they'll put you in the gulag. So you
Exactly. It's
spread
all
disease.
Yeah, it's all forbidden now.
What's that? What's the name of that group that everyone always plays those ridiculous synced up house Christmas light music things
Yes,
with?
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Thank you.
Jake, our producer, loves them, and so do I.
My favorite.
Yeah.
A Mad Russian's Christmas for everybody.
They're really good. There's that kind of rockin', weird,
Yeah.
like squealing electric guitar sound. Those I was kind of disappointed to learn that those are not. You don't program those one by one. You just have a program that kind of responds to the sound waves. You see what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I thought that the guy had meticulously each measure of that song.
That would be impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget what we were on before David started talking about castrati. I don't know what the.
I don't remember either.
End of the year. Should we talk about end of the year?
Oh yeah, end of the year.
This
Well,
2020.
Practically speaking, you all should, if you're not, sign up for our Substack, which is free for now, and stuffed to the brim with good content. What's the site name for that, Jake?
AmericanMind.substack.com.
Great. Yeah, if you want to hear more of Spencer, we just chain him to the desk in here all day, and he asks us all stuff, and we talk.
He
yeah.
has to talk to us.
And then we write brief stuff. Me every couple weeks, but these poor bastards all the time. Yeah. Oh, and then I've started a national search for a chief development officer, who's going to help us. I hope we'll probably hire them before the end of our fiscal year, of course, which is June 30th. So sometime in the coming months will help us build on the success of recent years and continue to grow. So if you want more information about that, you can go to the search firm's website, Carter Baldwin, and find the link for Chief Development Officer for the Claremont Institute with the whole, and it has the advertisement. You can send it around. Send around the link rather than the PDF because they like to track engagement and referrals. And I tweeted about it yesterday too, so you can find it on my timeline as well. What else? 2020, the end of 2020. Well, we laughed, we cried.
We had a great time. I mean, we were here in this bastion of sanity, but it does. I have been reflecting a lot on the fact that there is actually a weird sort of button in the fact that this vaccine is being rolled out, and that has created this narrative sheen of like, and now 2020 is drawing to a close, and make sure you put your mask on for 21 days after getting the second shot. But nevertheless, like, the end is in sight, and I can't help but feel as if that is mostly an illusion, because of course the forces that generated this madness are not going anywhere and didn't emerge ex nihilo in Wuhan, when the first pangolin kissed the first bat in the garden and then the fall occurred. For God had said that of all the beings in the creation thou mayest kiss, but of the pangolin thou shalt not.
Pangolin and the bat shall not mate.
I forget what I was talking about now.
How 2020, how the madness is not coming to an
Oh,
end.
yeah. I actually didn't forget. I was just joking. But
Yeah.
The madness isn't coming to an end. And in some ways, it's going to be harder to identify because now you're going to have the Klaus Schwabs of the World Economic Forum saying that wasn't this a great opportunity to think, to open our minds, to think more broadly about the redistribution of wealth.
Yeah.
And you're going to have the coronavirus extremists saying, as they already are on Twitter, that this has made them realize that, they should just wear masks all the time because there are so many infectious diseases. How the extreme germaphobes. And so I don't know. I feel as if I've been through. I guess the real narrative that I would give of myself is that I've been through a purifying fire. That now there's been this super intense, distillation of everything that is so terribly wrong, and on we charge to fight exactly those same things in a more sustained way, without quite so many instant crises constantly on our docket.
I think that's spot on.
Well put.
And you start to understand that a larger fight looms when little things are revealed of President-elect Biden's cabinet and some of the names that are being thrown around. What's coming, if it does in fact come, is that we're going to have to fight tenaciously on a number of fronts. So you're right, Spencer, that these past few months have been good. Past few years have been good training ground.
Yeah, you saw the announcement today from that guy from the University of Pennsylvania, and it looks like the CDC is following his lead that, old people over 65 are disproportionately white. So though they're at higher risk, they should not necessarily be immediately lined up for COVID vaccines. As our colleague Matt said on Twitter, this is just the beginning. There will be more.
It's astounding. I see people who are not as belligerent as we are on Twitter. I just saw someone saying, F you all, you said lives matter, and now lives don't. They're not the thing you're trying to save.
Yeah, the relief package in the District of Columbia is being prioritized for women and people of color for the business relief stuff. So, we've come full circle on the civil rights movement. I think, but this, and our friend Chris Rufo had a long thread on the insanity of the greater Seattle and Portland area. Both of them corrupt. This is coming to a town near you.
It's a little bit. Sorry, Ryan, I didn't mean to.
No, that's right. I lost the thread.
One thing that crosses my mind and I wish it didn't, because this kind of sounds insane, but I'll say it anyway. The amount of money that was made by certain like corporations and people during the time of COVID or on account of COVID, it's hard for me to believe that this isn't going to happen again in some kind of way, that like a shutdown.
Right.
So just I mean, when you can see the amount of money that can be made, the inclination to have society shut down again. Now, whether it's because of a naughty bat coming to play or something else, it upsets me, and it worries me that my children will have to go, endure this a few times over. This will become a regular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
totally crazy.
I think that's almost a certainty, and I don't know what form it will take. I don't know if it'll take the form of these global shutdowns or whatever, but they'll invent some other cockamamie reason why it's an ethical matter.
Cockamamie?
Yes, Matt. We're so deep into my needing to end this podcast immediately that there's several
Thanks, Matt.
layers.
Thanks
here.
for that clarification.
Thanks for that clarification. We're so deep into this cockamamie scheme. They'll come up with some other invented reason, and it will be a reason that pretends to carry great moral weight, so that the people who disagree can not only be pilloried as ignorant, but also evil, right? Bad. And actually, if they're smart, which isn't still, the jury's still out actually on how smart these folks are. But if they're smart, they'll do it in a way that looks as little like coronavirus as possible. That is, as little like nationwide shutdowns on the basis of public health concerns as they can, and they'll find some other thing that you absolutely must not run your business here because it encourages gentrification. They'll generate a national craze about gentrification or whatever they'll make up. And one of our central tasks is really emotional. It's about ignoring that. It's about learning to not care when they call you all the nasty names, and learning to, because every time they like, but this time, I know that last time it kind of proved to be bunk, but this time it's real, getting it.
Don't you think that proving ground is right? I mean, my take on the end of the year is everyone keeps talking the entire year. Oh, 2020, right? 2020 is crazy. And the thing is, 2020 is just a gate. Yeah. And the gate is swung open into a whole new world. And so it better be a training ground, or when you look back at it, you need to think this is a training ground, because we've just leveled up into a whole crazy world of bumpiness and craziness. I was just saying this on the phone today to someone. I mean, there's no possible scenario to me where things calm down. That's just not going to happen. It's not possible. Right. So things are going to get bumpier. We've known this. I mean, some of us have known this for a long time. It doesn't matter who won the election or whatever. Things are going to heighten and escalate. So, I think a lot of our listeners are already there. But if you're not in that mindset, you have to realize there's no conceivable way out of, we're not even close to the end of the crisis and the conflict that domestically America is plunged itself into. So 2020, don't sit here and 2020 is over and now it'll be a new year. It better be a training ground looking back. At least retcon 2020 for yourself and realize you're going into a new realm in which things are going to heighten and the tension's going to rise, and there might be a false spring for a hot second, in the next couple of months. But none of us here have any illusions about what's going to happen, and I'm thankful that I think we're ahead of the curve. I was reading a book about CAA, and I'll do a little humble, just a straight up brag. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that I'm blessed to be around a lot of people who think the same way and think about these things. And there's a great line about creative artist agency coming out of nowhere and dominating in the 80s. And he says, one of the guys said, it was like they said about Larry Bird in NBA. Does anyone remember Larry Bird in the NBA? Anyone remember what the NBA is? Yeah. But they said, what is with Bird? He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. well, how is he so successful? And the line was, well, he can see the play developing a few milliseconds before everyone else. And I think if anyone thinks they're in that position, great, then move ahead and keep moving ahead. But I just don't really see, this year to me was just like the door was open to something that's continuous. It's not like we're shutting down anything.
Right.
Because like you said, that we've just established lockdowns as a way of life that can be activated at any time. That the heightened kind of cold civil war that's vaguely has turned hot this year. I mean, it's all just frogs in a pot, moving forward. And there's going to be accelerated change this year. It's going to get bumpier. I think in media especially. I mean, what the hell is going to happen in the next 6 months with large corporations? I mean, really big stuff is going to occur over the next 12 months, and that's going to happen in many sectors.
Yeah. That's right. The good news is 75 million people voted against the gate swinging open to madness. So there's a lot there to work with.
And also,
what's the name of the CIA book, Matt? It sounds interesting.
Hold on, I'll pull it up if you guys can blab, because I have 3 of them or 4 of them. But the best one is the one that's all firsthand accounts going back right to the 70s when they started. And he has, people who were all the agents over time and the people who were represented, as well as the players. And it's fascinating because the entire book, it's like 400 pages, and it's just people talking, sometimes contradicting each other about the story.
Yeah.
Very good piece of work. I'll pull it up.
The other, while Matt's searching for it to fill the time, a brief footnote is the other good news is that Christ is born, right? I mean, that's
the original
that's
good
the
news.
side note is that
We're not supposed to talk about that.
I know.
We
We'll
can't say
probably
the name Jesus
probably
on
get
air.
taken
But
off
Ryan
the-
started out doing it.
So Jake can bleep it out.
Just a
when I say
minute
Jesus.
to profane the sacred powerhouse, CAA, the untold story of CAA.
got it.
Powerhouse
Powerhouse.
is the name of the book.
That sounds good. I'm making a note of that so that I can go and.
And you can read Ovitz's own, I think somewhat honest autobiography. Who is Michael Ovitz?
Yeah.
But you were talking about Jesus, the reason for the season.
Yeah, the reason for the season. Well, I don't know. I mean, we'll see whether this is a rosé fueled maundering or something helpful to close this out. But I was thinking back to the conversation we had last week on the last episode, where we were talking about, who are the American people actually, and you don't get others, right? You don't get some slightly more palatable version of the American populace. And so if you want to make gestures toward, the real America, or even if you want to say, I'm fighting for the people, then you have to take them as they are and love them as they are. They have to, for all of the things that you may disagree with Alex Jones about, for all of the ways that blowing a shofar in a Trump rally may kind of raise your hackles, for all of that stuff that your Chardonnay chomping, rosé drinking self may get a little bit grossed out by, right? That's the people. That's who America is. And your options are either to accept that or to invent some fantasy world in which someday, if you just meme enough, then the people will be more virtuous and more pure in light of your perfectly fabricated world, where nobody owns anything and everybody is happy. Well, the truth of the matter is that 2020 and our reaction to it, which is that it's a dumpster fire, right? That too is the worlds that you get. And many of us, I think, have been memed into a kind of comfort that allows us to imagine there is some other, more smooth ride that we could be taking. But in fact, this bumpy, weird, terrifying, uncertain, constantly changing ride that we're on is the world. And when John says that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son to live and die as one of us, that whosoever believeth on him shall not perish but have eternal life, the world in that sentence is this one, the one that was going to go through lockdowns and the one that was going to catch fire and the one where people were plotting secretly, unbeknownst to you, to begin and initiate the biggest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, as Isaiah himself and all the other prophets would have predicted, right? All of that stuff was always what the world meant, and you don't get another, and God didn't choose another. So the fact that, like, you know, he was born physically into this one and then also got killed by it is reason to take comfort.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go to deeply personal places here at Christmas to me, but it is what you're saying is, I mean, look, Christmas is the light in the darkness.
Right.
I mean, and so it's kind of the perfect holiday for all those reasons.
And this didn't cancel any of that, right? Like, none of the stuff that you didn't expect was like, oh, and now actually that's not, that deal is off.
Exactly.
Deal is still on.
I thought at first you were going towards some meditation on thrownness and being in time, but then you quoted the Gospel of John, and I knew it wasn't Heidegger. It was actually the Christmas story.
Well, on some level, perhaps that's all one and the same.
All right. Well, we should close it out there. It's a slightly abbreviated episode today, but thank you to all of our listeners. This has been almost a year of weekly podcasting for us. In January, what is it, Jake? The 22nd? 23rd will be officially a year. And that will be, well, probably not 52 episodes, right? 51, because we are going to skip next week.
Yeah.
But we recorded 2 this week. No, so it will be 52.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks for coming along with us. We enjoy ourselves, as you all can tell, and look forward to 2021 with new challenges and more reasons for both laughter and tears. Because, as Spencer said, there's no getting out of this life. Well, we all get out eventually.
You're all getting
but we're
airlifted
stuck
out.
with it. We're stuck with it, and we got saving America to do.
I don't know, Ryan. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed.
Spencer knowingly raised his eyebrows at me while he was saying that.
as if that was supposed to mean anything.
Well, thank you all for listening to the Roundtable. If you want to support our work, go to www.claremont.org/donate. If you want to learn more, visit our websites at americanmind.org, claremont.org, and claremontreviewbooks.com. Don't forget to rate us well, jolly well here on our Christmas week. Rate us well, review, share, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to production and engineering crew, Jake and Annalisa. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next week.